G'day, this is Bob from Paradise, and this is tip number 7 from your tip of the week. Today we're going to talk about bromeliads, and we've got a couple here behind you. This is a Mania. That one's in flower at the moment, and this one's a Marizia with an orange flower. We've got quite a few different types. This is actually a Catalogue in behind us here. It's a much smaller type of bromeliad. They're a miniature. And all these bromeliads actually are epiphytes. They grow on trees or on rocks. So over here we've got, this one grows into quite a big one. It's an Acme, and it's Acme mexicana. Grows to about 1 metre high. So there are a lot of different types, a lot of different habits, and I was just going to show you how to pot up a bromeliad, and we might be able to divide one as well. If we just come down here. First of all, I'll show you, this is a giant bromeliad too, called Imperialis. We generally don't send them quite this big. They're about this high, but they're quite big plants. Something that people didn't realise with a lot of these giant bromeliads, that they have tiny little pups. Most of the broms grow pups that get bigger than the parent, and quickly so. These have little, what we call grass pups, and you can take them out quite easily. Even if there's no roots on them, you can propagate them if you put them into a coarse mix. So that's Imperialis, Alcantara Imperialis, and another Alcantara, which is another giant one, is this one right here. It's a beautiful brom, gets great big spray of flowers up high. That's called Alcantara Regina alba. Gets there's a lot of silver tones into the foliage, so they get the alba out of that. And that's another one that has grass pups. Now if we just come down here, I'll just show you the type of mix that we use to put bromeliads into. Basically we use two types of mixes in our nursery. Our normal mix, which has got, it's composted radiata pine bark, or not radiata here, most of the country it is, but this is from the southern pine plantations. They're hybrids, Pinus eliotii, that sort of pine tree. The bark is composted, and see how most of this is pretty fine material, less than 10mm diameter, but we get 20% added into it of coarse material, like this one, 15mm. So when we say millimetres, we mean the distance of the particles. See how wide it is? That's 1.5 centimetres across, about 2/3 of an inch if you're in the old scale. And all this other stuff we call fines, and there's all different particle sizes in there. It's graded right out to just what you want. And what we do, this has already got 20% in it of coarse material, but bromeliads like it much coarser. So with a bromeliad we'll add 40% of more of this 15mm bark. See how coarse it is? Really coarse. And that's what they've got to have. A lot of bromeliads, you'll kill them if you pot them up into anything finer. Of course you might have been getting away with just using a normal potting mix with some, and that'll be quite alright for those plants, but then suddenly you'll get some different ones and they'll have a different requirement altogether, and they'll be stone dead when you get a wet period. So we're just going to look at a couple more here. This is one of my favourites. Unfortunately the flowers are up the other end, but we've had this in our catalogue recently. It's called Acme fasciotomy. It's been in our catalogue. It's got a beautiful pink flower about that size, and lasts for months and months and months, and you can grow that on a tree. Right? You can grow all the broms on a tree, or you can grow them in the coarse mix in the ground. And just telling you about the potting up a minute ago, if you're planting it in the ground, I'd use this coarse mix, dig a hole but make sure it can't fill with water, and plant it into this sort of material. And we'll be talking to you more about this coarse material for tropical plants, because it's not well known that you should have coarse mixes for most of your tropical plants, so they make it through the winter period when it's wet, so they're still well drained. This is another one. Yeah, we haven't started selling this one yet. And that's called Mania. I have to look at the label. magnifica. Mania magnifica. I think that's an orange flower that's sort of in around about this height here. So that's another really nice brom. And over here we've just potted up these tiny little fellas into a fairly coarse mix, just as I described it to you, and that's a pineapple, which is the Ananas type, Ananas bracteata, but it's a variegated one. It's a variegated ornamental pineapple. Now we just potted them up. If we get a really wet period now, we'll probably lose the whole lot. So we've just got to watch the weather. We might move them under cover. We don't want them getting too wet when we've just potted them up. You can lose young plants that way. So let's put that one there. And I think we've just about, here's another one over here. This gets a red flower, comes right up high, and you can just see all the stripes in there. It's called a striped torch. It gets a big torch flower, and it's Mania monostachya. Yeah, it's a very, very attractive. We're still selling that one, but we've only got about a dozen plants left. So that's the end of our discussion for today. If you've got any questions, just give us a phone call, and we'll catch you next time. Just don't forget that our website's www.paraplants.com, and it's been really nice to be with you.